podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Ospreys Diary.
Hello and welcome back to season 2 somehow of the Ospreys Diary podcast. Your home for everything Ospreys, interviews, bad punditry, and most of all, good player. I would say, have you had a nice summer off, boys? But I think neither of you really had a summer off.
There was about 4 days.
I think I had a little bit longer than Robbie. But...
Good summer otherwise, gentlemen?
You know, there's continued to be rugby on. Those 4 days were lovely. You know, I kind of sat in a heap. Maybe went for a walk at some point. I can't really remember now. It feels like it's just been continuous since about 2018 when I started doing this for a living.
The only person who's had less of a break than you was Adam Beard.
Yeah, and all South African rugby players, seemingly.
Yeah, that's true. Brilliant. Okay, so I've had a decent summer. As people on Rap have guessed, I've got a new employer who I'm not going to name, but it's pretty obvious because I couldn't be bothered to change from work.
But DHL Stormers have taken you on by the DHL.
Yes, I now live in Cape Town. I've moved my entire family there.
Or you're a delivery boy.
Could be.
We're you know, you decided, you heard about my days briefly working for UPS and decided to start a rivalry.
Yeah, in the niche working for delivery companies,
3-letter delivery companies.
Yeah, and works within rugby as well. No, I won't name them, but if you're on the video, you can guess. But yeah, so it's been a change. It's been busy. There's been a lot of standing near Chandler Cullen himself, who's a very tall man.
Where could it be? Where could it be?
But equally, I also, get paid by the same person as Alex Callender, so who's really winning? And Kaylee Powell. So, yeah, you can guess. But good off-season. If we talk about it from an Ospreys point of view, quite a weird off-season because we did all of our announcing really early. And then the staff selfishly decided to go on holiday. So there was bits where we're just sort of like twiddling our thumbs. And I was messaging Robbie, was like, tell Bethan to get off the Sun Lounger and give us some news.
Wasn't, in fairness.
I was
telling Bethan to get on the Sun Lounger because I've seen,
I've
seen how hard you push yourself. Yeah.
But
I was telling her to watch Marry Me, which I think I mentioned on the podcast, the J-Lo movie, which she still hasn't watched, as far as I'm aware. And she did message me after I mentioned it to check. And no, look, this will come up every week on the podcast now. Has Bethan from the Ospreys, behind the scenes, watched Marry Me yet? It probably won't, but I could do that if I chose to.
I mean, we also got some great stuff over the summer, and then we obviously dropped our Toby Booth interview, which was amazing. We had such amazing feedback. Really great opportunity for us that wouldn't have come about without the support of everyone, the likes, the retweets on that hellhole of an app that I have forced myself to pursue with, because there's just no one on Blue Sky apart from me, Iestyn, and a man called Peter, who we have just the one conversation with constantly.
You do have the odd members of Irish Rugby Twitter on there, though.
Yeah, but they're everywhere.
True.
So, in terms of that Toby Booth interview, there will be more coming through the season. We, I won't go into details, but we were very fortunate enough to foster a communication with the club, who have been very kind to us in allowing us to interview staff. We won't go into more detail, but some good stuff in the pipeline that that we're really excited for, especially as in this milestone season. Rather than doing a dedicated news section, we just thought in this super mega extra bonus special preseason welcome preview, we'd sort of just talk about the news in little sections. Are we in agreement there, lads?
Yeah.
So let's start on the sign-in front. Let's start with some staff. Richard Lancaster has been announced as our new chief. I think his chief commercial director would be the right thing to say. But he's definitely like head of marketing. He's got Anthony Cole Johnson's old job, essentially. So Richard is
commercial director is the position.
Commercial director.
They're listed as.
He's a Swansea boy. He former coach at Swansea Rugby.
Yeah. Which is surprisingly isn't mentioned in the press release.
Yeah. But he's a St. Helens boy through and through, most recently working for Swansea University. He's a big part in the commercial aspects and advertising of the Varsity Day, which, as someone who's been to said Varsity Day, is a huge, huge affair. It's the second biggest varsity in the UK, behind the Tory one. And it's also the other televised on, fully available national television.
Hey, don't knock Phantom TV, Derby Uni's TV station, which I hosted our coverage of Varsity 2 years in a row when I was a student.
Look, I would never knock Phantom TV.
I was the head of Phantom TV for a year and we did nothing.
It's just a title for your LinkedIn.
Yeah. What use it's been. I think it's the first time I've mentioned it since.
But, so it comes with good stock. It buys into the... I said this at the time on the Hellhole app, that it is a reflection of what Toby's built with the squad.
Yeah.
And that has seeped into the staffing and the move to the stadium to St. Helens. So it's a really, really good appointment. And heard nothing but good things.
And I think it ties the Ospreys further to Swansea Uni, to the community, which I think is something that's been talked about a lot by Toby Booth, by Lance Bradley, by pretty much everyone within there, wanting it to be a stronger tie to the area, to the region. So, continue to do that, continue to move in that direction, someone that's very familiar with that. And, the student population as well, if you can bring some of that in, would be a wonderful thing. So, I can't claim to be an expert, but all signs point upwards, and you've got to trust, the recruitment across the board at the Ospreys has generally been very good over the last few years. So, got to hope this is another moment of it continuing.
And to have someone named after a World War II bomber plane, it's just cool. Like if he got into charity boxing, his nickname would be sorted straight away. Richard the Lancaster bomber. Like,
that is the only Lancaster there is. Yeah.
What other Lancaster would there be? There's got to be like a
Stuart
Lancaster. Yeah. Richard the Northern Man, Stuart Lancaster.
Dan, his son.
Who was weirdly been signed to Racing 92.
Yeah, I wonder how that happened. I wonder what scout was picking up on that.
It's like a certain Manchester man's son holding a very high position at a northern club. I won't say more. Iestyn's favourite person.
I mean, I haven't got any grudges against anyone. I'm not really sure what that comment's all about.
You know exactly what I'm on about, Iestyn.
I mean, look, I could phone him. I could phone his dad.
Phone him.
He's got previous of doing that to me.
Yeah, I'm not
still
sure
got his number saved.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I've been picked on this situation.
Because you mentioned it on the pod before. You did. So, continuing with the sign-in front, we have signed from the Ospreys sub-academy Ryan Condia on a short-term deal.
Yeah. I think something widely talked about and kind of speculated the moment he was released by the Scarlets. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
saw we were short a winger and wondered this was coming. It is, you say, a short-term deal with Keelan Giles injured through for 2 or 3 months. I would suspect he might stick around beyond that. I think he is a player who we're probably getting much lower than, the asking price would have been a few months ago. And he is a top quality URC level winger and has had, moments in which you wondered whether he'd make a Wales squad. And those are the players we need to be making sure we can bring in. And I think it's a really, really good signing. I'm very, very pleased to have him and Cassand, who's been confirmed since we were last on, when we were kind of talking about it as something we've been hearing about. I think they're both two very good signings and something different from the Luke Morgan, Keelan Giles, Harry Houston, who are good players, but are perhaps not the tallest, and perhaps in similar molds in that they're very elusive, fast options. And having someone, Conbeer is rapid, but yeah, who has perhaps
he's got that power in him.
Yeah, has a bit of power, as does Cassand. Bit high if we are looking to kind of a kicking game. Something we saw Conor Moyes actually work really well with.
Yes, I was going to come on to him
when we get onto the game from the weekend. But yeah, I think a really useful option. And as I imagine, considering he was talking, there was a Wales Online interview. He said if he couldn't pick up a deal in the next few months, he was going to be working as a bricklayer. I think probably a solid bit of business and a really useful squad option.
Iestyn, thoughts?
It's just a good signing, really. It's really unfortunate from Conbeer's point of view that he got let go at the end of last season because he's always been that consistent performer, and it seems that it's good for him that he's managed to get a new club, and I think it could work really well for him. You're the Ospreys, obviously. You got your Giles, your Morgans, and players like that, but
your Giles, your Morgans,
and obviously the younger players coming through like Houston as well. But yeah, you kind of always felt like there was a winger or maybe too short when North, Cuthbert and Prothero all left. So it's nice to see additions coming in, and especially two of them with Cassand as well.
Yeah, I think with me and Conbeer, I think like Robbie said, when he got released, everyone was like, "Ooh, Ospreys, hello." Like, sign him. And there was a bit of that with Alex Summerhill as well, but that was mainly Cardiff fans feeling sorry for him. And I like Conbeer a lot. I remember that mad Ospreys game a couple of years ago. He scored that hat trick where he made Prothero look like a competition winner. It was genuinely like, how has this guy been let go? Yeah, and that's not me saying that the back division at the Scarlets is bad. There's some good wingers down there, Tommy Lewis, Tom Rogers. But you're thinking like, he's only 25.
Yeah.
Which is mental.
But
then also is apparently like now the second most capped under 20s player. Wow. Because the most capped under 20s player is Morgan Morse.
Yeah. But if you offered me any of those back three players at the Scarlets last season, I would take him. He'd be the one I'd want most.
Yeah, I'd say Tommy Lewis as well.
Yeah, I like Tommy Lewis, but Conbeer is more proven at this level.
Yeah.
I like Tom Rogers, but I think Conbeer fits what we'd want to do more. He fits the mold of winger we want.
Yeah, I mean, he's he's listed 5'10", 40 stone.
Yeah.
Which is short, but he's got a low centre of gravity and good power, good hips. He runs like...
When I said he's taller, I meant he's taller than me.
Yeah, he runs like Ashley Beck.
Sure.
He's got really good hips. I remember Paul Williams tweeted about this a few years ago about players who run with good hips, and Ashley Beck is like the prototype for that for me. He just glides, and he scored 26 tries in like 60 appearances for Scarlets, which is an unbelievable strike rate. And he scored 2 on the weekend. Like, and one of them was a very good try, that chip and chase.
Both of them superb, I thought. Yeah. His first try, where he spots exactly where the space is, he gets, after a long sequence of offloads and passes for kind of people that haven't seen it, like, there's a lot of interplay, and he stands 20 meters away.
bumping
Yeah,
meat and throwing offloads.
he stands 20 meters away where there are no defenders and waits
Yeah,
perfectly, times his run onto the ball, and stands in position where if Luke Davis can get it to him, he is always scoring. And it's just a
yes.
really good bit of like assessing where the space is and knowing his position. And
Mm,
I thought like really good bit of technical wing play there. And then yeah, his second try, again, he's given a bit of a sniff and he turns what what a lot of wingers would take as like a solid 5 or 6 meter carry, he turns it into a try. He takes up the other 20 meters as well. So yeah, I think
yeah.
two really, really good tries and some good touches, good moments on defense as well. I thought he was generally very good in his time on the
Yeah,
field.
he's very good at that. Almost Sean Edwards
Mm,
shoot out of the line, shut the attack down.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think I look. I'm really excited for the lad. 25, not even hit the prime of his career. If he can stay injury free, gives depth at that position for us. Um, yeah, I'm happy. Who speaking of wingers and Scarlets, but this one likes to fight them. Um, we have signed Daniel Cassand on a 2-year deal. Another
Mm,
man who's in fine try scoring form at the minute. So we've signed Cassand in a permanent deal. I'm assuming 2 years as a standard for contracts nowadays. Um, yeah, big fan of this. 6'3", good pace, good defense, very good over the ball. Um, and will chase kicks all day long and
yeah.
will fight you because he just can, because he loves the badge. Like I cannot explain to you how happy that Scarlets game made me. And just watching him grip Ben Williams and say like he was from the top end of Bonamine. I'm currently listening to Alan Jones's audiobook, right?
Mm,
Which is very good. I've had it for ages, just haven't listened to it. And he obviously has a lot. He has a lot of love for the Ospreys, but he just talks about like when James Horwill stamped on him in the 2013 Lions tour, and he just
mm.
basically says, "I could have batted him, but I didn't because where would that get me?" Which I feel like is what Daniel Cassand is like, but just when he faces a Scarlet, it's like I could have just laid you out, but I decided not to. And of course, that video clip resurfaced where he utters the words, "They didn't want it," which I believe is where that came from us, wasn't it?
Possibly. I think it's just
Possibly.
a phrase. It's just a thing people say, you know? It clicks on. And look, I will happily credit Daniel Cassandro with anything. I think he made a hell of an impression in his 2 games, um, both local derbies. But yeah, made a hell of an impression there, and I'm very happy to be seeing more of him. I think he's
Uh,
one of those players that would have been in when we look back. We talked about like way back this time last year, kind of streets won't forget Ospreys teams, and he was an
yeah,
instant insertion into there. And yeah,
yeah.
excited to see him get more time.
He also made it into your South Africa New Zealand video.
Yes, yes, the representative of the DRC.
The Congo.
Yeah,
He
Congo's
could
proudest rugby player alongside Mados
yeah,
Tamboy. But yeah, and I
yeah.
guess Chris Shunza. But
And Vincent Shizuka and
and
Emmanuel
Vincent Shizuka.
Shizuka.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Shizukas. Yeah, they've got a decent team there they could put together if only they had a national team.
Well, I put this in the group chat because obviously Instagram works now, the fact that you collaborate on posts, so it
Mm.
comes up on both their feeds. It was just really weird clicking on Osprey's post and Mados Tamboy and Vincent Shizuka commented on it.
Yeah, they
Um,
love it. They,
so
I,
yes,
I love that there's a really supportive community of Congo rugby players.
yeah, it's like West Wales, but in like Central
Yeah,
Africa.
I'm
They
sure
all
they'd
know
love that.
they all know each other and just support each other. Iestyn, Cassende, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, good. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on, over the course of a season, not just for a short period of time. Um, I remember when he came on for his debut, there could have been a little bit of a better scenario than coming on at Rodney Parade when you're behind and you're down to 14 men. But
Mm,
he did make up for it the following week. So I think yeah, that's my main concern in the way, is just how he gets on, for the course of the season. Does he stay injury free? That would be a bonus, and if he can replicate that performance that he gives against the Scarlets, most weeks, then it will be a really good bit of business.
Yeah.
Um,
Postman always delivers, coming up.
yeah. Something that we reported on, well, I reported on the Twitter a while ago, was the signing of Conor Moyes. So, for context, I was sent this rumor back in May that we had signed a player from Nottingham University. And I spoke to our friend and yours, Dave Rogers, the commentator, who commentates in Buck Super Rugby, is very involved in that league. And we both came to the conclusion that it must be Conor Moyes. And it was. It has been reported by his junior club, which is the same junior club as Hugh Sutton, that he signed a 2-year deal. But this is unconfirmed by my sources and obviously not by the Ospreys themselves. I do have notes on Conor Moyes. They just happen to be in a different place right now. It's a bit like it's like my girlfriend who goes to a different school and you wouldn't know her. But he had a ridiculous strike rate at Nottingham Uni. Like I'm talking like 24 tries in 56 games or something like that.
Scored. I can tell you 7 tries against New Ash Green. Played for in one game. I think just in one game. Yeah, was top try score. Like really strong kind of work. I can't actually tell you his total tries. No, I thought I could.
I can because there's an 8-minute montage on YouTube, which is very good of his clips. So he's 21, 22, 6'3", about 95 kilograms, coming out of a very much a semi-professional environment at Nottingham Uni or Uni of Nottingham. Wing outside centre, really good defensive game. So yeah, he has 53 caps for the Nottingham first team with 28 tries, which is a ridiculous strike rate. He showed up well in the Origin series, chased his kicks really well. Positionally was very good.
I think the thing that caught my eye about that highlights package is so much of it is his kick chase. And that is, for a winger nowadays, at professional level, 50% of your game is how good you are on the kick chase. And that was the thing that stood out on Saturday about those games in the Origin series, is he is really good on the kick chase. And that is an absolute diamond in the rough if you can sign someone who is that good on the kick chase, even if the rest of their game, even if it did need a bit of work, and by the looks of the highlights and by the looks of the weekend, that is not an issue. You've got an absolute diamond in the rough there. And how easily can you step up to URC level? I don't know. Obviously, there is a step up from Bucks, but I'm very eager to see where he goes because I think that's really, really promising, everything I've seen from him. And I'm not just biased because it is, Nottingham Ospreys connections are rare.
I think
he's definitely walked past my wall with the Owen Williams shirt on it behind me for people on the video.
This is very nerdy. I'm a Buck Super Rugby nerd, right? Having watched the league a lot when I was in university, still watch it to this day. Is that where it was when Nagy and Sutton were playing in it? Is a very different league to what it is now. Nagy and Sutton were very much students playing in a semi-pro type league, whereas now these boys are coming out are athletes, right? They're getting proper testing. Their nutrition is it is more catered for. They're on proper weights training and things like that. And that's not to say Nagy and Sutton weren't, but you look at, if you remember the narrative around Alex Dombrand when he came out of university in 2019.
Yeah.
They were essentially in not so many. They just said he's fat. That's all they were saying about Alex Dombrand was he's fat. He's an unbelievable rugby player, and he is an unbelievable rugby player. But he had puppy fat, and his conditioning wasn't great. But it just so happened that he could make line breaks and throw offloads, and he won the Premiership 2 years later. Do you know what I mean? So when Nagy made his debut, he made his debut in the Rainbow Cup.
Yes,
away to Dragons, where he takes a ball off Duncan Jones, hands someone off, and scores a try. But you look at Nagy there; he looks a specimen. You know, when Sutton made his debut, I think then he made his home debut and scored a try against Connacht. You know, that the pathway works. The pathway is so rich and vain. Rhys Davis played in Bucks. You know, I assume got banned for fighting, biting someone's ear off or something. You know, Iestyn Hopkins played in Bucks. Cowan to apply to Scarlet. You know, this league is a legit contender league that boys now can step into pro rugby. Like if this is shameless promo for the other pod, but Dragons Lair did a great interview with Hugo Gustafsson, who is obviously Swansea RFC coach, but Swansea University head coach as well, alongside now former Osprey Joe Thomas and Joe Grabham as well, who's down there. But he talks very much about like why that connection is so important. You know, without it, we wouldn't have, and we'll come on to Origin Series in a bit, but Theo Curry playing for us on the weekend, who is a former Harlequins Academy and Scotland under-20 lock. But it just so happens to be that because he's able to go to Swansea University, which is a high-performance program, where he plays in Bucks, that we're able to use that.
Yeah.
So
it's a weapon we have that, well, I mean, Cardiff do as well, but he's not that common in the URC.
No, it's obviously because we're the British, so to say, us and the Scottish teams are the British part of the ERC. But our two teams are the only two that are in the Bucks League.
Yeah.
So, like Cardiff have signed Joe Cowell out of Cardiff Met. I mean, it's obviously really well documented about Emmanuel Faye-Waboso not going to Cardiff University, instead heading down to Exeter's program. You know, Chris Chunza went down to Exeter. You know, this is well documented. But this, you look in the SRC, right? Aberavon, Ed Dunford was a Cardiff University fly half. Eddie Anya, who's a Kenyan Sevens player, but also played for Cardiff and Buck Super Rugby. You know, all these different lads, you know, are coming out, going into pro, semi-pro environments. So there's no reason Conor Moyes, you know, 28 tries at 53 appearances, at 6'3", 95 kg, without coming into a professional S&C environment, can't be, for me, you know, not saying test level, but a solid Luke Morgan-esque like club winger. You know, a dependable thing. And then hopefully he'll be like Nagy and Sutton, who it's probably taken like 2 years longer, but people are now talking about Nagy as being in the Wales squad. People were raving about Hugh Sutton at the end of the year. Yeah. Right. And we talked briefly about this in our interview with Toby about that connection. So it's really good. Any more on signings?
No, I mean the other thing I suppose is just Toby mentioning we were too short in the squad that he wanted, and he said we might not get those over the line. I'm guessing it's looking like that's not happening. Combia might have been one of those, but there was already talk of him turning up in training from Wales Online by then. So
the other one rumoured is Lucas Sataro, because currently we're on 3 senior scrum halves, but we had Scott Whitlock made his debut on Saturday.
Right.
Who was a academy lad from Aberavon, played a bit in Hartpury Uni as well. So whether Sataro does come in,
who's a Scarlets Academy scrum half,
who is former Scarlets Academy, good, well, you know, highly rated down there, and it'd be interesting. But that's signings.
It's I suppose I feel like we're probably done before the start of the season. I wonder if they want to come in during the season. Is the note?
I will talk about this in the Exeter preview, but there is a rumour that one of our tight end props has an injury. Okay. I would still like us to sign a prop.
Yeah.
Or look to bring in maybe a Cheetahs prop or a Hurricanes one in for most of the year. Just to have that depth. Let's talk about kits. Because they happened. So I talked about this on Rap actually on Monday. Macron have had a really strong year. unless you're from Cardiff. Because I feel like they stiffed Cardiff massively because Cardiff always want this like traditional heritage type kit. Whereas we went like, let's take as many drugs as we can and put it on a kit. So obviously the home kit made its debut in the Origins. I thought it looks really nice.
I really like it on the players more than in the initial promotional photos. I don't think did it any favors.
No,
I think once you saw it in the better light, there was a different photo of Jack Morgan.
I sent
that
you
looked
the one
much
with Jack
better.
Morgan and Jack Walsh, and it looked so much better.
Much better there. And then once you see it on the players, I think it looks really nice.
Yeah,
it looked a bit like a training shirt in those initial photos, and I was a bit unimpressed. And I thought it was perfectly nice, but I think actually seeing it in motion, I really like it.
Yeah, it's really understated. Like the pink isn't like in your face. It's really understated. It looks good. Iestyn, what are your thoughts on that home kit?
Yeah, it seems perfectly fine. I think it's like you just said, the pink doesn't really strike out and shock anyone by any means. It's just like a nice little design added on to the traditional black home shirt. Of course, there's been a little bit of debate about that with the whole Neath situation, but yeah, it does seem quite a nice kit in fairness.
Yeah, I think the big talking point with it is the lack of a sponsor.
Yes, we'll come on to that.
Which, this is completely, off the record, myself, like my own digging, not based on any sources, not based on having any conversation with the Ospreys, unlinked, but like EcoWatt, who were the sponsor last year, are currently being sued by the F1.
Yeah, by Alpine.
And you suspect that might have something to do with it. Completely baseless speculation. And there was talk at the Sport Q&A. Lance Bradley said they have a deal that's very close to being over the line, very close to being announced, that will come in once the season begins as the shirt sponsor. But supporters kits has to be drawn up, and we also said a friendly before that. So
Macron had a release date window that they wanted to get everything out on. Obviously, you have the Alpine and EcoWatt stuff. This has come from the supporters Q&A, is that yes, the deal is 90% done, it's over the line. The players' kits will have a shirt sponsor, but they've made the decision because of the feedback to sell supporters kits, like replica kits, without a sponsor all season. So when you go to your club shop or you go to Macron or you go online, your shirt will not have a sponsor.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people have been crying out for years.
I kind of wish there was an option. If you had the option, if you wanted the sponsor or not. But yeah.
I mean, it depends what the sponsor is. If a sponsor says
that's true.
Ron Evans pies, but then I feel like if I look back on old Osprey shirts and like I'm a big football fan, I look back on like my team, West Ham, where we were sponsored by like Dagenham Steel or Dr. Martens, and then the Ospreys, like you remember like the N Power kits.
Yeah, exactly. Like I kind of group them by the primary sponsor.
It's synonymous.
Yeah, you kind of think of them almost in that era.
Yeah, like when all of Welsh rugby was sponsored by BT.
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, you do. I'm not saying like I remember the West Acre days of 2021, but
I see Travis Perkins and I think of Northampton Saints.
Yeah, exactly. Or obviously you've got Dyson, you've got Bath, you've got Habu at Bristol, because it just makes me laugh that Habu is a sponsor.
I've got endless investment banks with other English clubs. I don't know what any of them do.
Or like when I look at Leicester Tigers, they get angry. That's for other reasons. So
you hate Holland and Barrett. You hate Holland and Barrett so much. You're always smashing up their stores, seeing their health food drinks, hating it. There's diverse range of crisps. You can't face it. They're different flavours of Pom Bears. So always when I was a kid, it's the only place you get other flavours of Pom Bears.
Every time I go past, I just get ultra processed food and wave it in their face.
But yeah, I suppose the point there being, I think there's some people concerned with there's talk about money in Welsh rugby that we wouldn't have a sponsor and that's going to be an issue. So, but that is coming in, and supposedly there is nothing to say that we're going to be short. Lance Bradley said the club ran at around a 2 million loss last season, but they're hoping by 2025-26 they'll be turning a profit, or they'll be breaking even rather.
The 2 million pounds loss is a controlled loss. I would like to say that. So,
and the thing is, all sports clubs make a loss pretty much. So, you look at the Premiership, and it's only Exeter that are in the green, that aren't running at a loss.
I'm not going to obviously release details, but the club I happen to be employed by, we had recently an annual review of last season and preview, and when you see figures, right, sometimes the numbers look daunting. You see a 2 million, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, because it's not what you're losing, it's what you're on track to be in 2 years' time. So if you look at Quinns' finances from 3 years ago, it's a lot worse. That it looks worse, but you look at where they are now, you're like, oh, right, there's an upward trajectory, and that's what Lance Bradley essentially was brought in to do.
Yeah,
because that's what he did at Gloucester.
St Helens is going to make a huge difference on that front, as we talked about when it was announced.
Yeah. So for context, TV money accounts for 60% of our income.
Yeah.
So if you're in England and you see the Premier Sports deal, you panic a bit, but actually it sort of helps, because you're getting, you're contributing to a bigger TV deal that the aim is going to be bigger than it was before. The reason TNT aren't up in is because essentially they've exceeded the value of what they can get with rugby, because essentially rugby can't peak anymore. So if you take it to a new platform, Premier Sports want to level it and to it plateaus. So yeah, the away kit looks like an Evian bottle, but I love it. I really do love it. And what's actually great is the marketing, and we do this really well, right, as a club, is the marketing for the away kit had one of the under-18 girls front and centre with Kai Bishop, who is one of the Ospreys wheelchair players, who's a great character in and around the club, whose mum is really active on one of the Facebook groups. And says that the third,
James Fender
kit,
situation.
The third kit is good.
Okay.
So yeah, I look, I'm really happy with Macron this year. The training stash is lovely. I really like that stuff, and it looks good as well. I think, I thought we had a really good stuff with Umbro, right? And we all remember how good Canterbury was. I do feel like we're getting, we've had a bit of teething pain maybe with Macron, and I think all teams have, but I really think we're hitting our stride with them now. So yeah, any more about the kits?
No, I mean, I think it's great to see more of the wheelchair team being included. I think it's a really cool part of the club's identity. There are very few clubs in Britain and Ireland that have, or even professional rugby in general, that have a wheelchair rugby team attached. And it's always great to see them involved.
One as well.
Yeah. One of the top club in Wales and one of the top in the UK.
So actually, should we talk about that supporters meeting? It's not on our list, but we might as well, because it covers a lot. So there was a supporters meeting. None of us were able to get there, but someone on Glad, the hellhole that is that website that I am addicted to.
We've just got to rank the hellholes, and it's less of a hellhole than Twitter.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, is it though? Also,
it depends who you bump into, really, isn't it?
Yeah, depends which one you go on.
Yeah.
It's funny because every time the Ospreys one on the subreddit, if you want to call it, started in 2016, and every time I open it, it's like, when is Kieran Fonotier rocking up? Please don't be as shit as Jamie Nutbrand. They're the first two comments on it, and it makes me laugh. Everyone's like yearning for a simple time. So basically the stuff that came out of it is obviously what we talked about already.
Mm.
They put an explanation that the income that we get from the WIU for essentially the rental of our players is always used on the squad. He reiterated that cutting a region was never an option.
Yeah.
And actually, knowing what we know now, what came out in the news yesterday about increased funding makes sense, because obviously they would have been present at that JSG meeting. So yeah, everything that we've heard so far, positive talks. Obviously going to get a new funding package that'll bring us up to 6.4 million. Obviously nowhere near the Irish teams, but is in line with the Premiership salary cap. So the Premiership salary cap, if people don't know, is 6.4 million. And teams obviously choose to spend either to the limit or not.
And for the supposedly around what Connacht run, Ulster and Munster are slightly above that. Ulster are going to be slightly lower next year. Ulster have been higher than that. Ulster are probably going to be around that figure this year.
Yeah.
Leinster are about 16 times that, though Geordie Barrett is rocking up just for the love of looking at green things.
Because he played for Gary Owen.
Yeah. His aunt once mentioned Ireland in passing and thought, "Oh, I've got a one-day play there." He's actually not being paid.
He borrowed Hugh Sutton's Father Ted box set. Throwing back to an earlier podcast. There was also mention of Gatland not agreeing with the Ospreys' approach to rugby and culture, which is something that we've talked about a lot before.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe a topic for another time, but it's an interesting one to have an inside Ospreys line on.
So important stuff about St Helens. It's well underway, but don't expect to see any structural change at the stadium until 2025. Basically, they're looking at major companies on sponsorship for building and naming rights, basically to be like the DHL St Helens or something like that. Like
you are in the pocket, big DHL.
I am. It's just because I can see it on the screen. The N-Power DHL. There's rumours of an energy company wanting to use solar energy with car charging points, so someone like EDF maybe. But yeah, that's by the by. There is confirmation, obviously we knew this already, but a 4G pitch will be installed. And it will continue to host Swansea University RFC for Buck Super Rugby. What this will also allow to do is upgrade the TV facilities as well, so it's be easier to stream down there, which is one of the issues at St Helens at the minute. It's a nightmare to stream a game down there. Also, obviously, host Swansea University, and we'll also be able to host community teams and a natural pitch. While St Helens is one of the best natural pitches in that league, Iestyn probably attests to it sort of being down there quite a bit. It won't hold up for sustained use. And Toby Booth actually explained that there is a lot less soft tissue injury and far less turned ankles and twisted knees on a 4G pitch, which is something that our friend Hugh Griffin has also talked about as well. The existing clubhouse will be primarily used for corporate, obviously, naturally because of where it is above the ground. There'll be a fan zone in a covered marquee. They are looking at sourcing food locally with street food vendors, blah, blah, blah. The new stand will be higher than the existing stand at seat around 5 to 5,000, and hoping that a covered terrace will get planning for around 2,500, giving 8,000 capacity in total, with room to expand by another 2,000 if we can sell out on a regular basis. As for the type of stand, Edinburgh's Hive Stadium is your visual metaphor, which Lance was apparently involved in construction of.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. That was something we hadn't heard about before.
I like to think it's not an administrative role, like he was like a Sparky or something.
Yeah. Toby was a former Sparky, so he could have done it. We could have, just get Lance in. He probably put up shelves in the clubhouse.
and as Robbie said, the plan is to break even by 26-27. The revenues, will improve, being at St Helens, because we all make money.
And like as you say, the number of match days will go up drastically, and they will be able to make returns on that. Right at the minute, it's only ticket sales the Ospreys are making returns on. So suddenly, every game that Swansea Uni play, every game that Swansea RFC play, junior teams, etc., can all play there. Local clubs, when they get to finals and so on days, and the Ospreys will now take cuts off food and drink, which has not been the case at the Swansea.com.
And ticketing, and all of this is so great. Then Toby Booth talked, so I'll rattle through this as quick as I can. He explained that they now consider themselves a top 8 team and intend to stay there every season and be a top 5 team next year. Basically, he did a very good presentation. She gave the players when preseason started, where we are in terms of top 8 teams in various areas. So scrum defence, line out, try scored, defence attack. So basically, where is a team they needed to improve, and where is a team they, in some areas they're at the top. Right? Each player has a pathway program which identifies what they're good at and what they need to work on, and it's reviewed ongoing throughout the season. The academy is working well for us. It's probably not getting the plaudits of like a Cardiff or a Dragons or Scarlets actually at the minute, who are producing like superstars in the sense that they're getting national attention, but we're churning out regular players.
Yeah.
We still have a small squad that is overworked due to budgets. We're still carrying injuries from last year. So you think Rhys Davis, Adam Beard. Some players will be out until about round 3 or 4. Stuff we knew already. Culture, right? And we're going to come on to something that contributes to the culture in a minute. On and off the field, players are bought into it. Signings show this. They're not just bringing in tidy players, but players who are going to buy into the culture. They would love to bring in superstar players, but they're not. They're not prepared to bring in prima donnas, essentially.
And it's an interesting point with the budget going up by potentially as much as 2 million, potentially going up by 50% next season, season after the season coming. And that opens up a few things like that, as well as just having more depth, having maybe 10 more players in the squad.
Yeah.
But also being able to keep hold of the likes of, we mentioned before in this podcast, but like Jack Morgan, Morgan Morris, Dewi Lake, all out of contract this season coming up. Kieran Williams, Being able to keep hold of all of those would be fantastic. And then bring in some players on top, as well as maybe a star name.
Yeah. So essentially that was the sports Q&A. Iestyn, how do you feel? Having heard that, do you feel optimistic as an Ospreys fan going forward?
A little bit. I think despite the budget cuts for all 4 sides really this season, there's like a hint of optimism around for everyone in a way. With youngsters coming in, everyone's spoken about the ones at Cardiff. We've seen so a lot of players signed on to the Dragons as well, and obviously the younger players that are coming through the Ospreys. So yeah, I think so. It's interesting about Booth's comments about being a top 8 side and trying to progress onto a top 5 side. I've got a piece on that in the works, which will be quite interesting. And it's just going to be really interesting to see what will go on, because as Welsh rugby always is, even as a fan or as someone that wants to have a career in writing on it, it's going to be some roller coaster. And it's the time now to strap ourselves in and see what happens in a way. So it's going to be quite exciting, I think, season 24-25.
Speaking of roller coasters, Ospreys released something this week. So they dropped a teaser.
A theme park.
Ospreys
Land.
Yeah.
The Ospreys have now merged with Awkward.
Megaphobia, but the phobia is winning trophies in the late 2010s. I don't know. The phobia is Steve Tandy and an attacking game plan. That's harsh.
I'm just thinking of all the rides we could have at Ospreys Land. The Keelan Giles log flume. I'm sure surely there's a
It's a Kieran Williams ride, but you're a crash test dummy in a car crash.
Kieran Williams Dodgems.
Yeah,
Where you just Kieran Williams.
things.
Everyone's got Kieran Williams's face, all the Dodgems, and you just bash into each other.
Yeah, rather than Dodgems, it's like murder ball.
Yeah. You just give everyone a ball and you just crash into each other at high pace. This is a great idea.
It's not our worst one, to be fair.
No, I think that's a legitimately superb idea. They should implement at St. Helens when it opens.
Yeah. So yeah, I lost my train of thought. We released a documentary.
About the creation of the Kieran Williams Dodgems.
Yeah.
This is the start of it right now. It's really meta.
Yeah, right. Okay.
The documentary on YouTube.
Oh, I'm so tired. We released a documentary. So for context I was very lucky enough. We all three were very lucky enough, but I don't think you all watched it early. Robbie, you definitely didn't.
No.
We were lucky enough to see it early, a couple of hours before it dropped, and I was gobsmacked at what we'd made as a club. For those who aren't aware, this was all made in-house. It was not subcontracted to a company. Like, they didn't bring someone in to follow it around. This was made by Lloyd Churchhouse, who is a very talented videographer, who I believe is traveling around the world now. I'm not sure he's still at the Ospreys. A man called Daniel, I think, who again, very experienced videographer, and Harrison, who is head of content and PR at the Ospreys, obviously with input from everyone. So it was made by 3 people and all edited by them. But if you haven't watched it, oh my God, I was not expecting that. Like, the trailer alone, when I first watched that trailer, I got goosebumps. I don't know about you guys, but like, as someone who's watched a lot of documentaries and watched a lot of sport documentaries, actually, they can fall into like 2 categories when you see a trailer for them as well. That they are really self-righteous and like, yeah, we're really good at stuff, and you know, our culture's amazing, and you know, we're infallible. Or they just come across as like disaster flicks that people like to watch. And when you see it, and there's the bit where Morgan Morris is walking along the Gloucester pitch, and he just like pushes the camera out the way because they've, you know, and me and you were there, Robbie, right? Yeah. You saw how dejected everyone was. The last thing you want is someone pushing a camera in your face. That's real emotion. And you don't see it until you get to a point, because it's all pretty standard stuff, actually. You've got like pieces to camera. You know, Robbie, you know a lot about film. Iestyn, you're sort of involved in a lot of interviewing of people. And I've got sort of limited experience in that as well. But when you interview someone, you know, you're looking for sound bites, essentially. You're looking for things that you can put in bylines, in you know, bold and in paragraphs, right? And you get all that standard stuff, and then you get to the Munster game, right, and the stuff around the Munster game, and they go into the changing rooms beforehand, and Justin Tipuric's given a team talk, and there's been a narrative painted of Justin Tipuric over the years that he's this like socially awkward weirdo, like who only talks to Taulupe Faletau. Like that, but that's what it is. Like, he's this quiet, unassuming man, and he's basically calling everyone cunts and saying like, you should play for the badge. But you're just not expecting that off like a club that prides itself on being really family friendly, you know. And then they come in at halftime. Well, we all know what it was like at halftime in that Munster game. We all watched it. Yeah. You know, Owen Williams has thrown 2 interceptions.
Keith threw one of them, in fairness.
Keith threw one of them, but all our bad luck had basically collated into one half.
Just a horrible first 20 minutes of everything falling apart.
And they get into that, and you know, I've been in them changing rooms before where you get in and you just get bollocked, and they go in and they're like, yeah, we're down, cool, let's go out, and like, we're still in this, And you see it, and you see another side of Toby, of this, like, because he comes across as like that quick-witted uncle, you know, who gives really good advice.
Something
And then
something we saw a lot last season was the Ospreys starting quite poorly, but hanging on in there, and then coming out the second half a different team.
Yeah.
And getting to see that process and see what was happening at halftime, because we do see bits in there of Toby talking, but also Mark Jones and Duncan Jones.
Yeah, the Duncan stuff is my favourite.
Duncan's great.
I think of that.
Talking about, looking your opposite man in the eye and just running through them, be it scrum, carry, whatever.
And you saw that, though, because we had that Munster scrum, like, on toast, right? And we arguably should have had a yellow card, if I'm being pedantic. But you can see that with Duncan, like, he genuinely believes in the programme, which is of his scrummaging programme, which is why I'm not worried for, like, the likes of Garen Phillips and Ben Warren, like, who have had questions of their scrummaging, because I can see it in Duncan and how he talks there.
Yeah. I thought really interesting bit in the week as well, separate to this, but there was a really good interview on Wales Online with Dimitri Arhip from Ospreys Favourite.
Yes.
By Ben James on Wales Online. And
good interview.
Really good interview, like really well worth reading. But he talks about his first scrum at training the Ospreys when he was against Duncan Jones. He went, well, I'm twice this guy's size. I'm going to just smoke him. I'm going to smash him backwards. And he just got eaten alive because Duncan technically was so much better. And he said he then spent so long when he was a player and when Duncan was a player doing sessions with Duncan after training and so on, and just learning things and learning to be technically good. And Dimitri Arhip went from being a very rough around the edges person of physically was big enough to be, and physically dynamic enough to be a good scrummager, but had no technique whatsoever, to being one of the best scrummagers in the Pro 12 as it was at the time, and signing an enormous contract with Montpellier as a result. And just like shows how good he is, on top of everything else. Like really interesting way of looking at Duncan as a scrum coach, because I think we all here rate him unbelievably highly. I think he's amongst the best in the world, best scrum coaches in the world, and he deserves to be mentioned. And he isn't, but he should be mentioned alongside the Adam Joneses and the Jason Ryans of the world.
I mean, the Tom Harrison stuff. Like you've met Tom and been
who's
with
brilliant.
Tom, and who's absolutely fantastic. But as I always mention, I mention it to my English mates, is that we dismantled Tom Harrison's scrum twice in a row. Like literally, there's a bit in. I wish they interviewed him later in that Leicester game, because they interviewed him right at the start of the Leicester away game. There's no scrums, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a fine game. So I'd love to see his face at the final whistle." Because I think Tom Harris is a really interesting guy, and that video is great as a prop myself. But it's just like, what did Duncan see in that? Like.
I did actually, I don't think I mentioned this on here, but I did mention after we finished recording that I was an Ospreys fan, and he had a moment of going, "Oh, right," and then was silent for a moment.
It's in Vietnam flashbacks, that's why.
Yeah.
He wakes up, sees Rhys Henry in a cold sweat.
Just the face flashing, getting closer and closer. That should be a ride at the Ospreys theme park. Just Rhys Henry getting closer and closer. A Rhys Henry haunted house.
The ghost train.
Yeah.
But then the flip side of that is the low of the Munster game was into that Lions week. And I really liked the human stuff around that team meeting. I really hope there's a lot more team meeting stuff, because Mark Jones just mugs off one of the players and goes, "Who's the king of the jungle?" I know, "What's the Lion King of?" And someone said jungle, and he's like, "Lions don't live in the fucking jungle." It reminds me of that. One of my favourite jokes is, that Australian puppet, the purple one. I can't remember what his name is, but it's like a puppet comedian essentially,
right?
And he goes, "Can you name me a blue fruit, like a fruit that is blue?" And someone in the audience shouts, "Blueberries," and he just like screams, "Blueberries are fucking purple." And I don't know why, because it's the obvious thing to say. If you say like something is the king of, like an animal, you just immediately go the jungle, and then you don't really think that lions don't live in jungles. So, but that's the human side you don't get to see of the Ospreys, and then but then you flip that then to Owen Williams, right, who comes out of this so well.
Yeah.
And just his technical nous of just like this man spends all his time analyzing other teams. And his just comprehensive notes of like, this is how we're going to beat the Lions. Listen up.
Yeah.
And you get to that bit, the changing room then, and they're all talking like of their different roles. You've got like, this is what I'm saying. Owen Watkins saying this is what we're going to do in defence, right? You're not going to give any space. Jack Walsh speaks really well as a fullback, saying, we're the ones, we got to bring that accuracy, we've got to bring that tempo because we know the forwards are going to do a job on them. And then you get the really human stuff of like Sam Parry and that video for the 150th. And I'm just sat there like, this is my club. I've just produced this.
Yeah. My favourite moment of that is the halftime on that game.
Yes, I wanted you to talk about this because you put up some really good on Twitter.
There's a fantastic moment at halftime, and it's something we never really see. It's something I think the Her Story series, the WU have been doing with Whisper Cymru on the Welsh women's team, have had a few moments like this as well. But you rarely get to see this happen. But there's a moment in that Lions game where we see Adam Beard walking into the changing room, talking to Rhys Davies, Beardy and the cunt together, and he turns to Davies and he starts saying, well, they're moving this free pod in the lineup back, and if we can just bring this forward and we can change this. And Davies is like, right, okay, and like Beard points like an analyst who's holding a laptop. And like he looks at the laptop, and then we cut back a moment later, and Beard now is sat down with the laptop, and he's got Davies and Hugh Sutton crowded around, and he's going like, look here, this is what's happening, and that thing he notices is exactly what's going on. And you've got Davies going, oh God, no, you're right. Okay, yeah. So if we change this and we do that, and just a moment of them spotting it live and changing, tactics, and also pointing out how, with endless praise you can give to Adam Beard as a line-out caller, and as a line-out technician. But yeah, just a moment of it happening live and in like being really aware of what's going on. And how many times must that happen in a season? How many times is he doing that? How often is he spotting that? And those are coming through, and we never get to see them. And it's just great to be able to see those kind of really technical moments coming through and seeing those small adjustments being made.
Yeah, and you just sort of like, it's really weird knowing what happens next is the high and the low. Like the highs of Bridgend to the lows of Gloucester.
Yeah.
Yesterday, what did you think of it? Like, what did you think of the concept, the execution?
Yeah.
Is it? Go on.
Yeah, it just looks like a really well packaged thing, looking at really different areas. Like you saw in the trailer when Nicky Smith leading the team talk ahead
don't
in Cape Town. And that's like the high of it. And then you've got the low of, that you mentioned the Morris clip in Gloucester. I think it says a clip of Gareth Thomas coming off in
the Bulls game. Yeah.
And you've got right at the end of it, Rhys Davies with his head in hands after the Edinburgh away game before the Munster game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where he does his knee in.
When Davies loses the line out right at the end and Edinburgh hold on to the ball for the last minute and boot out a play and win by 4 points. And just see the raw emotions there. It's clearly not made up. They're not acting up to the cameras at all. And this, it's really is good to see. And it's going to be really interesting to go on that roller coaster, like I mentioned earlier, from the European, knockout matches to the game in Cape Town, then back down to the Bulls Leinster games, then kind of back up in a way to in that knockout round to qualify for the top 8.
I think it's something you mentioned as being almost surprised and proud that the inner club staff made this, but I think it could probably have only been made by people around the environment constantly.
Yes.
Because those players aren't reacting and aren't acting up to it as though there's an external camera team in there, It's people that are used to being in the environment, and maybe they're often holding cameras to get little bits of social media, and that's just stepped up, to kind of the next logical layer. And I think you can kind of tell everyone is comfortable with the people around there and the people in that environment, and that comes through.
There's two things I want to say. The other bit is I really like Toby paying tribute to Simon Church at the start,
Mm.
a man who never gets talked about, I think, as a head S&C guy, a key part of that staffing group, as well as Chris Towers as well. And I can't think of anything else in rugby that's been made like this.
Mm.
Like every club has made like a preseason diaries or like behind the scenes on a match day. But I can't remember a club releasing a documentary that shows their warts and all.
Mm.
Right, this is not me slagging off Cardiff now. So Cardiff are releasing that preseason like series, I mean, about the different blocks that they're doing. And there's some really, really good stuff in like the Mackenzie Martin stuff in Ely, but what it's essentially doing is showing how good that club is, right?
Sure.
And rightly so, because they should celebrate the fact that they've got an amazing, really good young players. They've got a black player who comes from a really underrepresented part of Cardiff. It's trailblazing essentially, right? They should celebrate that. But my issue with it is it's very much like, look at us, look at how amazing we are. Where that bit in The Simpsons where the newsreader like clips at the back of his head to like make his all this look really good, and then because he's had so much plastic surgery, he's like melted the back. That's essentially what it is. It's not addressing the fact, or barely addressing the fact, that Cardiff were a poor team last year who didn't compete in the forwards and lost so many games, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this directly addresses the fact that we fucked it up against Munster. We're taking back-to-back 60-point losses at Leinster and the Bulls. We crashed. We crashed out of Europe, right? Because we didn't play as well as we could. I don't know another team or an international team who would release something like that.
I do think a lot of the Her Story stuff is really worth watching on a similar note.
Yeah,
and I don't quite get into it this season when Wales did crash a bit, I think it was easier for them to put that together when Wales were broadly good but had the odd off game. They were really good. And then this year, I think it shied away a little bit. And that Ireland game, we saw very little. But
the Her Story stuff comes from, again, an underrepresented part of the game. And it's all, but my thing with the Her Story stuff is manufactured by an external thing. It's through Vodafone. And as great as it is, it's a corporate what a corporation wants you to see.
There's a
about
great
women's
moment
rugby
in every episode where someone phones someone up using a phone with a Vodacom sponsor on it. And they always say the phrase, it's great to stay connected, TM. There's drink whenever they say stay connected in Her Story.
But so I mean,
I will post it every time because it's my comfort TV show. It's Her
Story stuff is great,
but
this is just so raw.
Yeah, no, it's great,
and
I selfishly wish it wasn't I'm assuming it's an episode a week, but I wish we were getting them more regular. I wish we just got a drop of like a 90-minute version because I could have just gone straight through that. I would have loved that.
But I came out of it like, I love this club and I love this culture because the person who we're very close with, the Ospreys, said to me, this wouldn't have been made if the team weren't so close and trusted the staff so much. And that's not saying they just trust Toby and his team. I mean, like everyone from ticketing to operations to security. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they didn't trust these guys, then this wouldn't be made. So, right, I think we've spent enough time on that. We need to crack through. Right, very quickly, Origin series was very good. Young players got some great game time. Players who necessarily won't feature in the URC, but will be in the SRC. Very quickly, who came out of it for you, Iestyn, with some credit?
Maybe not in terms of credit, but I think Scott Whitlock might be one to watch in the SRC next season. Harry Houston played well. I think this might be we spoke about Combi earlier, but I think this could be a real chance for him to gain consistent game time in the URC or the URC, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's really exciting to see how he gets on, I suppose. And yeah, it seems to be a lot of young players coming through, and I think might have read somewhere from that supporters meeting they want to get a set number of players through, a couple of players
Yes.
into the
Yeah,
squad
six
each
players said,
season,
yeah.
6 players a season, yeah.
and I think Houston will be one of those.
Yeah.
Robbie, who stood out for you?
Yeah, I'd say likewise. I think Harry Houston was a real standout. I thought he was very, very good. I thought Conor Moyes as well, as I mentioned earlier, like having a winger who looks that strong on a kick chase is invaluable when you get into the higher levels of rugby. So that really stood up. And then, a bunch of the established players, the kind of Ruben Morgan Williams and Keith and so on, I thought were very good and looked back up to speed. Which is
Whisper it
excellent.
slowly. Keith and
Yeah.
Phil Cock and a singer together.
Yeah.
That could be fun next year.
Some of the forwards, it's sometimes like, because I kind of skimmed through these games, watching them back, or I wasn't watching live. I didn't really, there was another game on at the time. Less important game, but and yeah, watching it back, perhaps couldn't pick up on the forward so much, but Harry Deves, exceptional. His front and follow up to make the tackle, brilliant, excellent. Yeah. But the other big name I think to talk about is like Dan Edwards, who I thought looked a cut above this level. And to say this kind of, Super Rugby Cymru was kind of the level he was at the start of last season. And he now looks comfortably above that level. Like the amount he's come on in a year is extraordinary. And I'm so excited because I think this should be the season where he kicks on and takes that 10 jersey from himself. And I think he probably goes in with that being a very even three-way contest between him, Owen Williams, and Jack Walsh. And you can't really call who is currently the first choice 10. I would put not quite my house, but maybe like the chair I'm sitting in now on, which is, it's a reasonably nice armchair, on him being the Marks and Spencers, on him being the starting 10 by the end of the season, him being the first choice 10 by the end of the season coming.
There's just, I will talk about my players, but he came on and his literally first touch of the ball. He puts that cross kick into Luke Morgan and Luke Morgan scores.
Well, he adjusts last second. Like, he isn't looking to do that.
Yeah.
He's about to pass the ball. He notices the cross kicks on and readjusts and drops it on the toe.
You cannot teach that.
No.
That's ridiculously good.
His vision and ability to change and like skill set is extraordinary. And you look at how much he improved first year to second year in the 20s and then first year of the Ospreys to the end of the second. Like, he gets so much exponentially better every season, every year he plays the game, that I just think, where could he be in 5 years?
And he kicks them 2 conversions from like essentially the River Towie.
Yeah.
For me, I think young player wise, Harry Houston, I really enjoyed. Dan Jermaine, so who's is a lock by trade, played lock at 18s, but was playing 7, which I think is really interesting. 6'6", something like that, out of Locker, same club as Ben John. Theo Curry is one I've been keeping an eye on. I thought he came on, did really well.
Scotland under-20s lock.
Yeah, former Queen's Academy, current Bucks player for Swansea. Scott Whitlock, like Iestyn said, I think is one to watch. I think he's a few years off, but he's definitely got the raw materials. Comes from good stock. I have to mention it. Garen Phillips just murdering someone. Like, I have seen people go to prison for less than what he did to that poor fullback. I thought Luke Scully came out of it really well, actually.
Yeah, no, agreed. Both at 10 and 13.
Yeah, test level 13.
Yeah,
as we all know he is.
His try, the line he picks off Dan Edwards is very good. Is very nice. Like,
yeah, and he's very kicking game as well. Actually,
yeah. And I really liked him and Dan Edwards as a combo. Like, I thought they really gelled together quite nicely.
Who else? I did have a couple more. Cameron Jones.
The
rampage and people carrier.
Bulked up even more.
Yeah.
Because he was like a big guy, but he's like, I think, expanded in all dimensions. He's now sort of a cube.
It's like 6'6" each way.
Yeah. But he was like one of those tall props that you get sometimes where like, New Zealand produces a decent number of them. Like a tall prop who kind of a lot of his weight is spread out evenly across his body. And he now, as you say, has become like bam, 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 like
He
across the
looks
board, like a cuboid penguin.
he looks like a thwomp off Mario.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And
Which is
yeah, still has that turn of pace.
yeah,
Lead with
good to
Conte's
the
first
pace, good
try.
offloading game. Yeah, Easton Lewis for his 40-meter dash.
Mm,
Um, but you can see sort of again, you can see the evolution of what the Ospreys wanted to do.
yeah.
They're wanting to play off 10 a lot more. So you're seeing Scully step up to the line, throw in that flat pass. And, maybe they can do it because it's an SRC team and maybe not have the line speed.
But I think it was a really good combination of tests for them. In that they had
Yes.
first up a game where that Aberravon game, they barely had the ball.
Yeah, really good defensive set.
Yeah.
Really,
So
really good.
they defended incredibly well. There was one try off first phase, which is something I think it was Corey Lewis Jenkins on the wing kind of makes
Yeah,
it
it's a
makes
poor read.
it's a poor read, but it's the sort of thing he needs to make to learn from.
Yeah.
And
Keelan
otherwise,
Giles did a very similar one at Leicester away
mm,
for Matt Scott's try, I think it is,
mm,
where he just reads the wrong person getting the ball.
yeah, and it
And
happens. But
yeah.
there's, but otherwise the defense was excellent
Mhm.
and across the board, and went on for a very long time and was able to just contain, contain, contain. And if I'm Toby Booth, I'm really happy that we've had one game where they've had very little ball and they've been clinical in the two chances they've got and scored two tries.
Yeah.
And then the following game, the Bridgend game, they had much more ball and they still went to shut Bridgend down very effectively, nilled them, but scored their points broadly there.
Yeah.
And then, the Swansea game where it was, probably the biggest test, the toughest game they faced, and they were able to put it all together much more easily.
Yeah. Shout out Luca Giannini, by the way, for Swansea. Played really well. The 8 for
Mm.
Swansea. Released by the Scarlets, picked up by Swansea. Can look out for him. Great test. So we move on very quickly to extra away this week. There's been no word on whether we'll have our Wales internationals,
Mm.
but they are training. They are back in training. So we might see them. Cardiff are playing theirs. The ones that are fit anyway. Same with Dragons.
I imagine it's probably a case by case situation. Derry Lake probably isn't going as he played almost every minute of that tour.
Potentially, but then you can say the same as Owen Watkin. He
Yeah,
played also nearly every minute. So, we had you got to remember we had so few on that tour
that's true.
that
Yeah.
we have to yeah. So expect to see more of a squad that you see in a Irk game.
Mm.
I still expect to see a lot of young guys in there. I expect we'll still take 30, 35 players up, depending on what Exeter want to do. So Exeter obviously not. No Dav Jenkins. This is the custody of Ethan Roots and Joe Hawkins match. Whoever wins this gets to take them home. I think it'd be a really good test for us. Exeter probably, if you asked, say what Prem team were closest to how we play, is you'd say Exeter.
Yeah.
Except, Toby Booth is likeable. So yeah, be a good test. I like the makeup of that Exeter team. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's not much to say about it really. It's a preseason game.
Yeah.
Don't get too caught up in preseasons. We've had like really good preseasons before and awful seasons. Yeah. So to finish off, I know we sort of the whistle stop tour through that, but there's a lot to cover. Rather than playing good player, which we could have played tonight, we set each other a challenge of naming our favourite 15 from an Ospreys. So this is not the best. This is not the ones that would be the dream team. This is not a street to forget. This is a 1 to 15 of our favourite players to pull on the Ospreys jersey.
And what I say is that we argue. We decide on one as the pod overall favorite between the three for each position.
All three are going to be uploaded to the hellhole for you to vote on, but we will make a pod one. Okay, so Iestyn, do you want to start at the forwards or do you want to start at the backs?
Oh,
do you want to go 15-1 or do you want to go 1 to 15?
Just kick it off with Nicky Smith. Just get the ball
rolling. Right, you're okay. So you're going Nicky Smith at 1.
Yes. Okay. Or maybe I might put him a fullback. I don't know
yet. With apologies to Duncan Jones, who's a close second. Nicky Smith. It's got to be Nicky Smith.
Okay. So I've gone for Duncan.
I love Duncan, but at this point, Nicky's.
It feels really harsh. We just excluded Paul James out of existence.
Yeah. So there was a lot. So Paul James in there, definitely, but Paul James, with love and respect him, who was in the crowd on the weekend of this son Dylan. Paul James was really good at he's like 6 out of 7 out of 10 at everything. Like if you asked him to carry, he'll carry. If you ask him to scrum, he'll scrum. Whereas Duncan had like some of the most underrated hands in Welsh rugby. Nicky has an amazing footwork game, really great off the ball. So I'm happy to concede Nicky there for the pod.
I think Nicky is just he's got a feeling of being like mine, I remember seeing him come through, or ours, I suppose, better than mine. I don't own it. But even though his signature is on my wall, so I could legally fake that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I felt genuinely really emotional watching him walk off the pitch against Cardiff for his last game.
Yeah.
And
as someone who was there, right? Okay, hooker. Iestyn, go.
Ooh,
favorite hooker to play for the Ospreys?
Well, is it probably like a young son hero? The amount of hat tricks he's scored is probably just about Sam Parry.
Oh,
okay.
It's very close.
Robbie, who's yours?
It's Dewi Lake, not recently biased. Okay. Richard Hibbard, love him, but yeah, I think Dewi.
Yeah, so I went through a thing of Mevin Davis was really good.
Yeah,
because he was in that fun back end of his career. Hugh Bennett was really underrated. Hibbard I loved Hibbard so much.
Yeah.
But I've also gone for Sam Parry.
Baldwin underrated as well. Okay, Sam Parry. I will happily concede Sam Parry.
So, because he's just, after watching that documentary, there's that photo of him they put up as a kid wearing an Ospreys jersey. I was just yes, that's the guy you want making 150 appearances for your club.
The greatest player that is built the same.
Yeah. Tighthead. I think we're all going to be very similar on this. Oh, okay. You go for Adam. Reese? Iestyn?
Yeah, Adam Jones for me. Just
again, right. This is I've gone for Dimitri.
I thought you might.
Because I just love him.
Yeah, if you were picking a 23, he's coming on with 20 minutes to go to smash some scrums.
Yeah.
Completely agreed. Yeah, Dimitri sits on the bench, but
okay, right.
Who would be your second choice, James?
It would be Bomb. Bomb would be my second choice. Yeah. Campbell Johnston's on there as well.
Okay,
because it's Campbell Johnston. Because it's just and Dan Suter would be at the bottom.
Alex Jeffrey's underrated.
Yeah, Alex Jeffrey's a really good sidestep. Tom Boat, again, I love Tom Boat. The Stellenbosch sniper is great, but
Rhys Henry skating up the list quickly as well.
Yeah, Rhys Henry,
just like he is in that.
Okay,
that haunted house.
Second row, favorite second row. Yes, then you go first.
I think there's one obvious one that we should all agree on. Yeah.
All right, should we do the obvious one?
Yes,
the Cock Steinkamp.
Yeah, Brett Cobain.
Yeah.
Alan Wynn. No, we all agree.
Alan Wynn.
Yeah.
Alan Wynn. Nailed in.
Yeah. Okay. Alan Wynn's 1. He's at 4. Who's joining him?
It's really interesting because you kind of got your eras in a way. You've got your kind of Jonathan Thomas, Ian Evans. Obviously nowadays you've got British and Irish Tesla and Adam Beard as well.
Yeah. So I think you could say James Ryan. Then I was going to say that.
I'm not following up. I think that was my first post on Blue Sky. That was I just put a photo of Adam Beard in a Lions shirt, and I got no likes whatsoever because no one's on there. So to pick
I'm going to
one,
make an account to like it.
I might have to just go for. I just do like Beard though, don't I? It's just like
right. You'll
what
go.
I've
You'll go
got.
for Beard. Okay.
Oh,
Robbie.
someone might shoot me for
No. I have spent too much time defending Adam Beard to not pick Adam Beard here.
that.
Okay.
Adam
Right.
Beard, Adam Beard straight in the team. Just he would be for the Lions.
I've gone for Tyler Ardron.
Oh,
I've got him a
I
6.
completely forgot Tyler Ardron. Oh,
I've gone for
Ardron's got to be in this
Tyler
team
Ardron.
somewhere.
I could not put him in there.
I completely forgot Ardron. Oh man, I might have to change my vote. I might have to apologise to Adam Beard and take him out for someone. Crucially, it's not James Ryan going in the team, so it's fine.
Adam Beard would be on my bench because I love Big Nasty.
I think I can
I
give
had a
up
moment
I can give up the Beards vote, even though I did shift Ardron to my back row, which is quite smart.
Okay.
Right, we say Tyler Ardron.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take Tyler Ardron. Yeah.
It's because I watch the highlights of that game against Munster at least once a week.
Yeah.
Where he's just like decides to be like amazing. Right, 6.
This is my Ardron, so I'm kind of out.
You had
Ardron.
You had Ardron. Robbie,
you could put Ian Evans there. Jerry Collins.
Yeah, I've gone for Jerry. Jerry is
Jerry.
like, I remember being like 10, being sat in the bottom of the East Stand, shouting Jerry while he's like fighting someone.
Yeah.
Like,
just wonderful. Like, and watching preseason game against Leeds I mentioned before, where like he was sat behind me, is one of my favourite rugby memories ever. He was wearing a stupid hat that didn't suit him at all, and all the rest of the squad had taken the piss out of him for it. A wonderful character, wonderful guy. Love him so much. Yeah.
Okay.
We're all agreed on Jerry?
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement who's at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Isaac? No, Ben Isaac? Who's Ben Isaacs?
Yeah.
Ben Lucas? No, Ben Lewis? Oh, God, it took me 3 attempts to say a stupid joke name.
It's Justin Tipperick, isn't it?
It's Justin Tipperick.
Yeah, there was no other option. Like, he was my first name on the team sheet.
Yeah. The greatest Osprey of all time. I will stand by that and fight anyone who says Alan Wynne Jones, who is the only ever contender.
8 is, I'm still stuck on my 8. Right. Yes, then you go first. You tell me your 8.
I've picked Dragons defense coach Philo Tier.
Okay.
Oh,
Robbie, you're in now at a crossroads as well.
No, no, I stand by my answer, but Philo is a very good second choice.
You chose Dan Baker, did you?
I genuinely like Dan Baker.
2013 Dan Baker.
Morgan Morris.
Okay, I thought you were going to pick Morgan Morris.
I love Morgan Morris. He is my current favorite player. You know, I've met a number of times. Like, really lovely guy.
Friend
and
of the
there
pod,
is something
Morgan
about
Morris.
the fact that, there is something about the fact that I have spent 4 years being furious he's not playing for Wales that makes me feel even more deeply connected to him. You know, that makes me feel like every performance, everything he does right in a rugby field, I care about so much more. But the fact he should be playing for Wales and he isn't. And yeah, Morgan Morris would be my 8.
So Morgan Morris is on my bench, but I've gone for either Philo because he is my favorite. He's my favorite Osprey of all time because he just is, and Ryan Jones.
Oh yeah,
we nearly went for an entire back row without discussing them.
Yeah, and I don't know who to pick. Just for popular vote, I'll go Philo. But Morgan would be on there. He knows he would be on there. Like, he's my current favorite.
Follow me on Twitter, I think. So,
yeah,
and the swung it.
Okay, so let's go into the scrum half.
Well, everyone knows who I've picked. I'm not deviating. I've got a reputation to uphold.
I didn't get anyone to fight Robbie for this one.
Tom
Hammerfield at 9. Look, I'm not doubting that. My favourite.
Yeah. Yes, I think I know who you've gone for because you mention him all the time.
Still doing it on the fly.
Ricky January.
No, it's he's a shout. He was close to making the 23.
Good shout.
If I was picking like an era, it would be like the 2014 to 2016-ish Reece Webb when he was at the real peak of his game.
Pre-KFC.
Pre-Lions tour Reece Webb.
So I've gone for Khan for 20.
That was my bench
Oh,
option.
good shout.
Right. For our sake, I am going to say that we are picking Cardiff
Yes.
because of just the democracy, which Robbie is a big believer in. Um,
I'm a big believer in democracy, but a bigger believer in
you,
Tom bloody Haverfield.
you can't abandon your lefty values now.
I can abandon anything for, hey, a left winger in Tom Haverfield.
Yeah. I'm going to put Cassand there, but
And I
I'll put
don't
in
think
brackets.
Okay, no.
I don't think anyone lumped the blame on Conor for box kicking the game away with 2 minutes to go, like the treatment Haverfield got.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Again,
no, but I will
I feel
accept
like
I will accept comfortably at 9, but I'm going to make one late adjustment to my team.
okay. I feel like 10 is going to be a unanimous one again. It's Marty McKenzie.
I genuinely had a thought of him earlier this afternoon. I was thinking, I think I saw a clip of Damien from last Saturday's rugby match, or wherever that was, and yeah, just all of a sudden Marty McKenzie popped in my head. I'm thinking, oh, we are there.
Okay. Who did everyone say? Did everyone say Dan?
Edwards.
Yeah,
No.
Bigger.
Bigger. Yeah, Dan Bigger.
Right. I said Sam Davis.
I
because
he was
like so much better to watch than Bigger because I love Bigger and Bigger was really effective for us. Like it was only in like 2015 onwards did he develop like a running game. But I'm happy to concede Dan Bigger because it's Dan Bigger and his book is coming out soon.
Stand my ground on you because I've watched so much kicking and started to actually really enjoy tactical kicking, so I think Bigger gets the nod.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. No.
Right. Wingers again.
And again, my first Ospreys game was Dan Bigger's first Ospreys game, and like I always felt linked to him in that way.
Okay. Left winger.
Shane.
You've gone Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shane.
Closely followed by Eli Walker's second choice.
Right, so he was my top 3 because my favourite wingers to watch at the Ospreys was Shane, Isaiah Natonga, and Eli Walker. Isaiah Natonga
what a play, Isaiah Natonga.
When he scored the hat trick against Cardiff in the pouring rain. And I'm telling you, it was a monsoon. Okay, 12. Who is your favourite Ospreys 12?
There's a few contenders in this list, isn't there?
Okay, so you had... I've put my favourite 12 at 13 because I've got 2 favourite 12s who play for the Ospreys.
I'm torn between 3.
Keith was up there, but I feel like he's still got years to prove why he's my favourite. Andrew Bishop was considered, but again, he's a 13, but he's considered. Didn't make the cut. Owen Watkin, I love him, but not enough to put him as my favourite. I settled on Josh Matavesi.
Oh, yes. Ooh. Yes.
Because, like, every time I see him play, I have a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I love scrum cap era Josh Matavesi. I love, like, he did everything that you hated James Hook for, but because it's Josh Matavesi, I smile.
Yeah, I opened Facebook up for the first time in a very long time the other day, and I saw the first clip was Josh Matavesi dummying through a Leicester team when playing for Bath. Yeah, just grinning through a dummy. I thought he's very, very good.
So, who have you put at 12, Robbie?
So I've gone back and forth a bit here. Keith, right up there, and I'm really torn between Keith and Gavin Henson. And I've considered putting the two together as a midfield, but I don't think that works at all. I don't think a Keith Gav axis is in any way balanced or logical. But yeah, I love them for very different reasons. But I'm gonna say Gav, for the sake of argument. As you say, Keith's got a long way to go, and yeah, I love watching him play. He's the greatest player in the world. But yeah, Gav, was just something else. As I will stand by the most talented player Wales have produced since Gareth Edwards. And, it's a shame it didn't come to be, but like in an Ospreys shirt, he was always on it. And, won us our first ever league title. Was, yeah,
In
brilliant.
what I remember, because we won it at Border Reivers,
Mm.
like the actual title, which was Gregor Townsend's last ever game,
Ah.
which I found out in Duncan Jones's book. But Iestyn, who have you chosen at 12?
My team is so like just really interesting selections, and I've missed like a really good 15 to go about there. It's like
You've
a
gone for JJ Engelbrecht, and
it's like a second string Osprey's favorite 15. So I've gone for Ashley Beck.
Yeah, I love Ashley Beck.
so he's at my 13. Spoiler, he's at my 13. So who do you want to pick? We've got Matavesi, Gav, or Beck.
I can give up my Beck claim. So if you want to
I
pick,
don't mind putting Gav in
yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the sensible choice.
because, yeah.
The thing is, I do get the heart pull towards Matavesi, though. Like, Gav is more of a head pick than Matavesi being a heart pick. I get it.
There's that Top Gear meme where the Jeremy Clarkson goes like, "This is brilliant, but I like this." Like Gavin
Yeah.
Henson is brilliant, but I like my Josh Matavesi.
Yeah.
Okay, 13. Who have you gone for, Robbie?
Yeah, sort of Keith. But sort of Tommy Bowe sliding him into 13, where he did play
You
some
put
very
the
good rugby for the
13.
Ospreys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in order to get him in the team. But if Keith sits in there, then Tommy bumps out to the wing. But Tommy Bowe is again one of my favorite, players of all time, favorite Ospreys of
So
all time, and
I've
favorite
got
morning TV presenters of all time.
I've got him on my wing. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd go in the wing as well.
okay. So are we
I've
happy
had to move him into 13
Okay.
to accommodate the other choice I've had to make there.
Okay, right. Okay. Let's put Tommy Bowe in at 13 because I feel like
Whoa,
Robbie's
okay, that came out of nowhere.
Oh,
let's I
No,
feel like
okay. No, who are your 13s? You haven't even said your two 13s.
mine was Beck because I
mine
Oh,
knew
of
is
course.
Bish.
Bish.
Oh,
See, Bish is a good shout.
He never missed a tackle, man.
Right. I think we've got to do the wing before we decide if Tommy Bowe's going a wing or
Okay,
13.
right. Who's the right? My wing was Bowe.
My wing was Bo, closely followed by Hannah Dirksen.
Yeah,
Dirksen was
Hanno
up
and
there.
Keelan, I think, deserve mentions.
You see, right? I love
But
Keelan, right? I love Keelan with all my heart, but no one for like cult hero status. Bowe and Dirksen are like miles ahead. The other one is Jeff Hassler.
That was my
oh yes,
choice.
Super Jeff. Yeah,
But I feel like we have to put Hassler in on principle because it's our like a longest running joke.
they've got it
Because
off
he
to
gets it
Hassler.
off to he got it off to Hassler. So I feel like
And also him and Ardron have got to be the best friends have got to be together.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm still so angry
look,
that interview has been taken off YouTube.
I know. the Look, the moment Tom Haberfield just bumped out the scrum half shirt, I did move him straight to the wing. And he's going on the wing now for me.
Okay. Right. So we need to make an executive decision. 13, who do you want to I'm happy to concede and put Bowe at 13.
Tommy Bowe at 13 with Jeff Hassler on the wing.
Just for pure rugby chaos.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I feel like I know Robbie's 15 choice.
I think I'm going to be swimming against the tide here, but yeah.
Okay. Is it Richard Fussell?
It's Richard Fussell. It's Richard goddamn Fussell, the greatest counter-attacking fullback in Europe to this
And
day. If I was made Wales coach now, I would cap him.
I know Iestyn's as well because he loves this man. It's Dan Evans.
Lee Byrne.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
So we've all gone for three different... I've gone for Dan Evans.
Byrne was kind of like my favourite fullback. Well, probably one of my favourite players growing up. Like, he was like one of the first people I saw like do something. I was like, oh yeah, I like that guy. He can...
Yeah.
Okay, this is the toughest one for me.
This is probably
yeah. I'd agree with any of the three going in the team.
You need like a three-headed coin to flip.
The other guy I thought about was Sam Davis as a fullback because I loved him as a fullback.
He was an underrated fullback.
Yeah, that weird period with Dan Evans on the wing. And then
yeah.
The weird Dan Evans on the wing era. I feel like Dan Evans is too easy a choice because he scored so many tries.
But also, he is kind of, if you're picking an all-time Ospreys team objectively, if you're picking it on how good they were at the top of their game, it's Lee Byrne.
Dan Evans.
If you're picking him as a servant for the club, it's Dan Evans.
Yeah.
And if you're picking it correctly, it's Richard Fussell.
If you're picking it tomorrow to play against Exeter, it's Richard Fussell.
It's Richard Fussell.
Okay, I'm happy to concede for Fussell just because,
I was expecting it to be Dan Evans. I was expecting
the viewers can have the selection headache of picking between Dan Evans and Lee Byrne. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
So the Ospreys Irie favourite 15 is Nicky, Sam Parry, Bomb, Alan Wynne-Jones and Tyler Argeron, Jerry Collins, Justin Tibrick, Philo Tia, oof. Khan Fatwali and Dan Bigger, Shane Williams and Jeff Hassler on the wings, Gavin Henson, Tommy Bowe in the centre, oof. Richard Fussell at fullback.
Richard Fussell / Dan Evans. They can play halves. They can play a half each. And Lee Byrne as well, though. They can play 20 minutes each.
We've left the viewers with a really good selection headache.
Yeah.
So some people we didn't mention Dan Lydiot as a favourite. Sam Lewis would be
Sam Lewis, yeah. Cult hero.
Trying to think off the top of my head. Brendan Leonard is no one's favourite.
James
King,
solid
James
player.
James Hook.
Barry Davis just came into my mind.
Davis, yeah.
Look, I don't think
Nicky
Ali Davis is
Walker.
anyone's absolute favourite, but the face charge down gets him so many points.
Yeah. Nicky Walker.
Yeah.
You got like Brent Cobain, Andy Lloyd,
Sonny Parker,
Steve Tandy,
Sonny Parker. Yes.
So I think there's a lot there. But you could even say 2013 Dan Baker.
Yeah.
Who else?
Joe Beeman, if you want to really extend.
Joe Beeman, yeah. You got Elvis Ciali back in the day.
Ryan Bevington briefly. Scott Otten, we didn't mention.
Oh, yeah. Evan. Oh, my God, I'm changing the hooker. It's Evan Phillips. Is he on the bench? He's now on the bench, yeah.
I think Evan's university number 16.
Evan Phillips. Should we do a bench quickly then? Evan.
Sure. I'm loving doing this. This is great.
Are we saying Duncan on the bench for 17?
Duncan on the bench.
Duncan and Dimitri on the bench.
Dimitri.
Look at that. A bomb squad. Step aside.
That is hell of a bomb squad. Beard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we doing 6-2 or 5-3?
Let's go this traditional 5-3.
Okay. Flanker.
Oh, no, that's the
Ryan.
question.
It's got to be Ryan Jones.
Oh, Ryan, yeah. Covers across the back row. Yeah.
21. Right, there's Tom Haberfield.
Oh, though Morgan Morris.
Look,
we could go 6-2. We could go 6-2, and that would mean we need to scrum off. He's very versatile.
Andy wore 21 where he made that epic performance against Worcester in the Challenge Cup. We won 3-2 in 10 minutes.
You are right there. Okay, and then Tom Haberfield, 22.
Yes.
Can cover more than one position.
We won. Yeah.
Dan Evans, 23.
That's fair. That's fair.
Head coach. There's got to be one head coach, surely.
It's Toby Booth.
Scott Johnson. Toby Booth.
Yeah. I think Steve Tandy's reputation I think we're getting towards it being replenished because I think he did a lot of really good stuff. He'd probably be second choice for me, but I think it is Boothy.
His assistant is Brad Davis. Personal favourite of mine. Alongside
Duncan.
I feel like
again.
Duncan. Lynn Jones has to be in there.
Sure, yeah.
So we're saying Duncan, Lynn. We need one more assistant coach. One more.
I can think of plenty of names it isn't.
It's not Brock James.
Yeah. There's another one I could say that I'm not going to,
Yeah.
um, ooh,
Is it Renzo Orn Molly?
maybe. Um, yeah, we've got a team there. We can have
Okay.
Mike Ruddock developing the youth or
Yeah,
whatever.
there you are, Mike Ruddock. I'm Mike Ruddock. Okay, so this is entering the unofficial ERC. Actually, no, this is the team we're sending to the Anglo-Welsh League. It's Nicky, Sam Parry, Bomb, Alwyn Jones, Tyler Argeron, Jerry Collins, Justin Timbrick, Philo Tiatia, Khan Fatwali, Dan Bigger, Shane Williams, Gavin Henson, Tommy Bowe, Jeff Hassler, Richard Fussell, Ivan Phillips, Duncan Jones, Dimitri Ahip, Adam Beard, Ryan Jones, Morgan Morris, Tom Haberfield, Dan Evans, coached by Toby Booth, Brad Davis, Duncan, Lynn Jones, and Mike Ruddock.
What a team.
Solid.
We also didn't mention Stephen Myler once.
Oh my God, we didn't.
I feel a fraud.
Yeah. How did we all forget Stephen Myler?
Max Nagy's best friend.
Oh.
Right. I think
what we've got to do,
there.
we've got to do another 15 another week and work Stephen Myler in there.
We're going to do team I would have loved to have played around Stephen Myler at one point in his career.
Yes.
I just want to see him and Gavin Henson in a room.
Imagine that combo.
Okay, right. We have got through a lot tonight. It's going to be a really long pod, but it's the first one back. There's a lot to cover. I think it's gone well. I think I'm really excited for the season ahead. Lots to come from us, hopefully. Robbie, congratulations on the South Africa New Zealand video.
Oh, thank you.
Really well.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the line-out video coming out with George Cruz.
Yeah. No, that's ready. That's coming on Sunday.
Beautiful. Iestyn, well done. You are now in your third year of uni, nearly.
Yes. Yeah, because I haven't written anything for a month, so there's nothing for me to really talk about.
But you are going into your third year of your sports journalism degree.
Potentially final year of education.
Potentially. Some say you never stop learning.
That's true.
But they're all idiots. They're all idiots.
But there is some pieces coming soon, so keep your eyes peeled.
So you can find Robbie at Squid Rugby everywhere. You can find Iestyn _Thomas21. I haven't done this in a while. And you can also find me at Ospreys Irie. Follow the pod. I can say this now. Yeah, we're going to get some player interviews. So very similar to the Toby Booth stuff, where it'd be a bit shorter. But yeah, we're definitely going to have some player interviews. I am working on something for the Ospreys Bulls game in October, which will be very interesting. Other than that, enjoy, folks. For those travelling to Exeter, have a safe journey. For those, then, we will see you ready for the season opener against the DHL Stormers at home. And just before that, the doubleheader of Wales women versus Australia and the Dragons v Ospreys. Yeah, I forgot who they were then. Have a good one, everyone.
Jonathan Spratt was robbed.
Thank you for listening to the Ospreys Irie podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question, rugby is always the answer.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.